Hello? Yeah, that's right. Oh, what do you want to do? Oh, you've got a problem. All right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Wonderful, wonderful. Brilliant. We'll get going. We'll get going in a moment. As soon as everybody joins. Do all the sharing and everything while we wait. Put as featured and all that. All the important stuff. All the important stuff. Okay, it's featured. Pin it to the guide. Now those guides, unfortunately, they only work on a computer. The guides don't show on a phone. It's unfortunate, but is what it is. The way it goes. So I've added the link. I guess I didn't have to put the join the lives here, but I suppose that works when I share it. So, but also put the link to be able to read it in case somebody wants to read along or read some other time. The link is there in the description. All right, very good indeed. Everything done, everything taken care of. Yeah, all right. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Who's here? Who's here? Ramsey. Ramsey. Good morning to you, Ramsey, and to you, sir. Good morning. Good morning, indeed. Anything that that came up for you guys since last time? I'm always keen to hear what's on your minds, what's in your hearts. Things you've been thinking about, things you've been connecting to. Thinking about learning and how we learn, how we connect to our learning, how it matters, how we learn. It's going to come up later in the story, but for now, we're going to be dealing with unraveling of Ursula. The unraveling of Ursula. It's a setup. It's a setup chapter, but well, as we go into it, what I want to share is a moment. What I want to share is in this chapter, the intent is to share from inside Biella. This is important, yes, and we're going to discover lots about Biella, and here we have perhaps a more usual circumstance for most of us, but for Biella it's unusual. So I wanted to show how she deals with this, but it's unusual not because of Biella necessarily, but because of Ursula. So it's an anomaly, really. And Biella is treating it as such. It's exceedingly anomalous. And we'll see later why this was such a puzzle and why it's so anomalous. And not just that, it's something that was outside of Biella's understanding or comprehension. She treats it as that to start with. Yes. I did want to start with Elizabeth's comment. That's right. Thank you, Ramsey. Thank you very much. Now let me go and find that. That is, let's see. Shouldn't be too much of a problem. I'm glad you're here as well, sure. I'm glad you're here as well. Glad you're here as well. Sure. While I find that comment, did you go through the impeccability session? I'm keen to know. Uh, because I added a slide there, on all those extended understandings. They're kind of one-liner understandings, which is very nice. Where are all the comments from yesterday? Why is it not showing here? It's kind of wild. Oh, that's the. Oh, sure. I'm keen to know. I'm keen to know if you saw that. There were some cool ones there, and some that I usually go over them verbally, but some that have been added, in other words. I'm just looking for. Wow, why am I not finding this here? What's going on? Oh, there we go. Here we go. Here we go. All right. All right. Yes. Elizabeth's wonderful comment there. How does clarity and focus work together with openness? Yes. Yes. Let me put that. Let me put that in today's comments. Go back there. Yes, Elizabeth. Yes, Elizabeth entrusted. Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay. Okay. Well, when you get a chance. Yeah. It's very slow, Facebook today. Like I would type comments and then it sort of takes a minute or two before it finishes my typing. And then, even if I hit enter, it only enters it later. Oh, sure. On that, go to your login and log out and then log back in again. When you get weird stuff, that's what Facebook support told me once upon a time. When Facebook's acting weird, log out, log in. So yeah, it just gets a little weird after a while there. So, all right. Yeah, 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 yeah. All right. So I don't know if Sure heard that. Okay. Um, um, all right. Oh, come on, Zoom, no Facebook, but I suspect Sure is busy. All right. So Elizabeth said yesterday, Elizabeth, you asked, how does clarity and focus work together with openness? And I'm so pleased you asked this because there's a misunderstanding a little bit sometimes when it comes to openness, as in that openness means we aren't focused. It's like the opposite of focus. But no, not necessarily. If we are focused like Shah was, right, when she took that step back, she said, what am I missing? And she took a step back and she opened to the environment around her. She was focusing on the entirety around her. She was focusing on being aware. She was focusing on being open. Yes. So we can focus and be open both at the same time. But in the context of Biella and the new nobility and our way of impeccability in our dictionary of power, openness here is is synonymous with receptivity, capital R receptivity, which means I am open to things being more than what I know. I am open to things being beyond my current understanding. I am open to assuming, insisting, and taking for granted that when things are shared, like in the case of Shah and Biella and Ursula and all of Biella's interactions, she does this as a default. She assumes and insists, not even assumes, she just takes it for granted that what is shared and what is said by somebody else makes sense. When an anomaly comes along, she insists that it makes sense. Yes? Now, an anomaly, by its very definition, is something that we don't quite grasp yet. It's outside of our understanding. There's some moreness to it that we have to get to. But if we don't insist the anomaly makes sense, then we can't reverse engineer and figure out how it makes sense. Because if we are closed, in other words, if we aren't open to it making sense, then we end up saying, this is kind of weird, this is different. And our default is when things are new to us and different, we say, it doesn't make sense. Yeah. And then, well, if it does make sense, what's the point of going any further? What's the point of being? And we actually, even though we like to think we're open, we're actually now shutting down, right? However, if our openness, which is this capital receptivity, it's taking openness to a sophisticated level. It's going to the end, the maximum of openness. To say, my receptivity includes insisting it makes sense as a starting point. Because then when I look at something, the anomaly, and I say, anomaly, wow, dang, what is this now? Or like, wow, Elizabeth said something profound, but it does, like, I'm not seeing it just yet, but it makes sense. Then I say, how does it make sense? And now the onus is on me to figure out how it does make sense. So it's all on me, in other words. It's not that the thing itself doesn't make sense. No, it's I'm not seeing the sense. So now I look at that anomaly, or I look at what Elizabeth said, or Ramsey or Shah or whoever, and I say, how can I make sense of this? Yes, what do I need to do to make sense of this? What do I need to do to make sense of this? Yeah. And now I start reverse engineering by assuming it makes sense. I look for how does it make sense? How? Yeah. And now it all comes because that's how our brain works. And that's where the clarity of intent comes in. The clarity is to insist that it does make sense. And then our brains now, because we have that clarity and that focus, we're focusing on not does it make sense? We're focusing on how does it make sense? Bina, talking about making sense. See, Bina makes a lot of sense. So she came right on that moment. See, little anomaly there. Just
Hello.
don't get. Hello, Bina. So I'm talking
Hello,
about, I'm
Freddie.
carrying on. Oh, hello. Good morning, Bina. Good morning. I'm carrying on from yesterday with Elizabeth's profound question. How does clarity and focus work together with openness? So I'm connecting it to capital R receptivity, where we are, that's our openness, but we're taking it beyond the openness. And it's an openness that has focus. And the focus is to insist it makes sense so that we can say how. How. Not does it, but how. And then when I start to figure out how, it all falls into place. Now that's a starting point. This is why capital R receptivity is one of the most sophisticated conceptions in our dictionary of power. And it is profound sophistication that is exercised, implemented, and applied, lived by the new nobility. We're going to see much of it. Yes. Why is it so sophisticated? Well, first of all, because we are breaking our patterns. And second of all, when we insist that something does make sense, yes, we are starting with that insistence, and we really do. However, we are being sophisticated to know that maybe, Elizabeth is saying something and I'm scratching my head and I say, okay, let me insist it makes sense. And I work it out. And then I've done everything I can. I work it out impeccably. And I said, Elizabeth, I'm sorry, but I've worked this through. I figured it out, and it really doesn't make sense. And Elizabeth would say, yeah, you're right. I misspoke. Oh, okay. Just saying, for argument's sake. Yeah. Now, reverse engineering. we have to insist that things make sense, like when we go and reverse engineer the crashed spaceship, for argument's sake. Yes, it's a classic example of reverse engineering, right? You take alien technology, you have to assume it works. But our sophistication says not so fast. Yes, 99.9% of the time is going to work. But maybe that's why the spaceship crashed, because the technology doesn't work. So overall it might work, but it's got some flaw. Yeah. See, so we have to be open to this. But we start with seeing how it could work. Now, even if that like in a crashed spaceship, yeah, and we say, wow, we assume it works, and we figure out how it works, and we say, well, for it to work, it would have to be slightly different to the way it is now. Oh, well, okay, that's why it crashed. See, so we can, with that sophistication, figure out how things could work, and therefore we've really gotten some extra value for us. But also to say, in your case, it needs a bit of tweaking maybe, or, it's inherently flawed or whatever. But we are starting from that position where we are looking for the sense first. And because that opens us up to jump outside of ourselves when things are making sense, but we don't know how, like anomalies. Yes. Now, when we apply that to people, of course, this is a most generous give. It's a very profound thing to do to somebody else. And of course, it makes for marvelous interactions. How can there possibly be any arguments on Nobelia? See the power of this receptivity, this openness. I'm open to you making sense. Now, making sense, it's only a part of what I'm open to. It's only a part of that receptivity. What I'm truly open to, and at the same time focused on, and I have a profound clarity of intent, is the insistence on your intent to goodness. So whether or not what you say in the end makes sense, at least I'm giving it every possibility of doing so by starting with that. But then, right, even if it doesn't, does it matter? Why? Because I'm also at the same time in my receptivity. I'm insisting it makes sense. Why? Because I know you have a deep, deep, deep intent to goodness and a deep, deep, deep intent to moreness. So even if what you say doesn't make sense, even if the expression of it may be one that's troubling, bothersome, or I don't know. I mean, if you're practicing, this way of living, you're not going to be aggravated or annoyed or bothered because you don't really have much ego. So, but I'm just saying, for argument's sake, how can I possibly take it wrong if I am always focused on your intent to goodness and your intent to moreness? No matter how you expressed it, you didn't mean it to be that way. You didn't mean to upset me. You didn't mean to annoy me. You didn't mean to bother me. See, so there can't be any dissension and argument. It's just not possible when we have this as a deep, deep capital H deliberately applied way of being, way of doing. Capital H habit is what I was going to say, way of doing, way of living, right? When this is innate in us, when this is our default, when this is where we go to first, this capital R receptivity, it is unbelievably profound. So that clarity of intent and that focus is a focus on a broad conception. Intent to goodness, intent to moreness, capital R receptivity. Yes, making sense. Broad conceptions, but we are focused on broad conceptions. So our openness isn't a diffusion. No, it is a focus, but it's an open, broad focus. Yeah, we are staying connected to moreness. We are staying connected to overview perspective, big picture. Yes, and there is where focus and openness are connected, and that is capital F focus, is in your question, right? Rather than little f focus, which is a narrowing. Now, sometimes that is very important. Yes, I mean, when we need to look through a microscope, we narrow our field of view. Yes, and sometimes we need to take a microscope to things, but it's like the number one rule of scuba diving: always know where the surface is. Always. Never, ever, ever lose connection to that. Now, when we think of scuba diving, we think, oh, clear water. And it's like, how can you not know where the surface is? But any scuba diver will tell you, especially if they're going a little deeper and since they're working in things, this is your number one rule, because underwater, you don't always know where your gravity is, right? So you don't have an innate way of knowing which way is up. Yeah. because your ballast is balanced so that you don't float up, because you got to do your stuff down there. So you can get, I don't know, you can kick up some soil or something, a squid could come by and blow out the ink cloud or whatever. There are many ways to lose your orientation underground. So you always need to know where up is, right? Because otherwise you can really get into trouble. So this is the same thing with us. We're going to apply that. We are like scuba divers in this awarenessless life. And we always need to know where the surface is. And that surface is overview perspective, the bigger picture, the top view, the overall view. So we don't get lost in our microscopic view, in our bubbles. Yes. It's very, 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 very powerful. This unbelievably powerful. It's a really, really big deal. Yeah. Yeah. Does that answer your question, Elizabeth? And for everybody else too, Ramsey? Thank you for reminding me on that. That was much appreciated, Ramsey. As it is a big, as you see, right? I mean, now in this one question, in the answering of the question, I'm sharing the entire underlying deep core philosophy of the new nobility, and why this society isn't an ideological society. It's not just a maybe, a possibility, or a figment of imagination, or a nice dream, an ideal, a utopia. No, it's feasible. Why? Because there's an underlyingness to it that makes it so. Yes. And I do know that deep, deep, deep respect for the intent to goodness and the intent to moreness of others. And this truly enables us to have harmonious relationships. It takes practice, it takes diligence, and our old selves, they do try and reassert themselves sometimes. And so that does come back, but that doesn't mean that we don't keep going, right? We have that persistence. So it's just something to make a habit. And this is something I've been meaning to say to you, Bina, and I'll share it here now. It's been on my mind for the last couple of days that I don't always feel that I am me. However, more and more, I do feel and are me, which is most encouraging, right? So this is just something that is part of our learning and growth. Somehow we've learned things, we've acquired things that aren't us. Habits, association, ways of being, all sorts of stuff inside us, right? So we need to know that. So sometimes those things, they come up, aspects of ourselves. We have multiple aspects within us, sub-programs, sub-personalities, and those aren't us. I is more than one, right? We can sometimes get pulled into nonsense that isn't us. And it's a little disconcerting, but we can't let it put us off, right? We have to just persist through those and keep making the effort to maintain our awareness of our moreness, to maintain our awareness of the overview. Yes, always keep that connection to the surface, right? Because when you do get caught up in that bubble, and you can pull yourself out and get to the surface. And this is something that I am most encouraged with, and with Bina too, right? Both of us. We've developed this ability that sometimes we get pulled a little bit by the old stuff, but now we can pull it out, right? We don't get pulled and immersed into it. Yes. We don't get stuck there, right? It's a very profound thing to be able to catch it in real time, not notice it afterwards, catch it in real time. Like Sher said the other day, she caught herself in real time noticing her reactions that were default habitual reactions, that were bubble reactions, right, with the phone. It's a very, very, very big deal. Yeah. So real time catching yourself, pulling yourself out into the surface. Of course, if you're a scuba diver, well, you better do it in real time, otherwise you're going to be in trouble, right? So it's a good thing to understand. So Elizabeth, please let me know there if my explanation on your question, how does clarity and focus work together with openness? And by the way, just something with me. I have a lot of stuff inside me. Yeah, I mean, I'm just being honest. It's not. I'm not a vanity thing. That I have a lot of stuff inside me. However, to access that, it's not always easy. The most powerful way to access that is to ask me an earnest question, like Elizabeth's question. It's a very earnest question, right? Ask me an earnest question, more comes, more comes, more comes. It's like I'm almost not in control of it. I'm just along for the ride. I listen to myself as the stuff comes out. It is very powerful. This is very helpful to me also. Yeah, it pulls it from my inner self there. It's a very magical thing, and it gives people lots of power over me. Actually, by the way, uh, just so you know, that I'm giving you power over me now. But this asking of earnest questions, not just with me, but with anybody in general, is powerful. But particularly in my case, my brain is trained to respond to that earnestness. Yes, it is the ultimate inappropriate response. So it's very powerful. So I'm keen to hear more from you guys on what I was sharing there. I'm keen to know more. I'm keen to know more on this point of clarity, focus, and openness. And openness here being taking it to capital R receptivity. Bina, any comments? I'm keen to hear from you, Bina. Keen to hear from you. I was chatting a lot there, but I'm keen to hear from you.
This capital R receptivity is, as you already know, that this is something, of course, very, very close to me, because this is something I have been practicing throughout my
Yes,
life almost. And
yes,
this is,
yes,
for me, this is the superpower one can ever have.
yes,
Uh,
yes.
yeah,
I will say,
like
Bina,
every,
that you are capital R receptivity. You are it.
yes, this is something I can say with surety that
Yes,
yes, this is something,
you are it.
without getting into any ego nonsense.
Yep,
Yes, this is
yep.
who I am.
It's
And
profound.
I get tremendous value just by
Yes,
practicing, just by being
yes,
receptive
yes,
in my life. I
yes,
get tremendous value.
yes.
There are, like any other superpower, there are some dark, not dark side, but it can go on a different or opposite direction if
Yeah,
you are not really aware, or if you are not really careful about this. Because when you are receptive, and in the Elizabeth words, if you are open, that's why I prefer to choose the word receptive, because it gives me
exactly,
more sense of empowerment that this is something my choice.
exactly,
I'm not open
exactly,
randomly. I'm receptive, and this receptivity is my
exactly,
choice.
exactly.
It can be, but when you are just saying that, okay, yes, the first step for me is to, of course, to have this trust that the person have good intent.
Yeah,
This actually, it should be the first
it's the
founding
key.
step
It's the key.
towards being receptive.
Yeah,
And the
yeah,
second one, that whatever they are sharing, it makes sense. It does make sense to them. That's why they're sharing. That's the trust in their goodness, innate goodness.
yeah,
It might not make sense to me right now, or maybe it might not make sense even in future. That could also
wow,
happen. So we are not trying to figure it out. That's why I love this analogy of receiving a gift from post.
yeah,
Okay, if you know that the person has sent you a gift, you will not insist on that, okay, I will just open it first and then I'm going to sign that, okay, I have received it. No, you never do that.
yes,
Always receive it with openness, with a smile, with open heart,
exactly,
like, because I know
exactly.
that
Yeah,
whatever that person has sent to me is going to be good, fun, something
yeah,
like, or valuable. Okay,
yeah,
I'm not saying that, okay, that it has to be always fun, but it will be valuable. That is the actual receptivity. We never think of it like in any other way. So like,
yeah,
oh yes, okay, I'm going to dissect it. So that's why we say that, okay, first receive and then dissect later. So, and it helps in learning also. It is not surrendering, it is just, okay, I'm choosing to right now that whatever you are
yeah,
sharing with me is valuable. Why I was saying that it can go a bit in an opposite direction, because when we are receptive, sometimes if we are not really careful, we get influenced by that, which is completely
yes,
contradictory to
yeah. So
receptivity.
Bina,
So
oh,
when,
go ahead, go ahead, go
yes,
ahead. I'm just
so
saying.
when we are making our intent,
I want to read the story,
oops,
Sophie and the philosopher. Keep going, keep
okay,
going, keep going,
okay,
keep going.
okay. So it has to be something very, very carefully chosen state of being. That's why I just call it that receptivity is actually a state of being, where you choose to receive. It's my choice. I am receiving it. I am
Yeah,
making that, okay, yes, this is going to make sense, and it is valuable, it is good, and it is profound. No matter what that thing is, what that sharing is, it doesn't matter. This is my intent, and I'm just doing it. I'm responsible for my part. The
yeah,
other person is responsible for their part. It could be completely nonsense for someone else. Okay, I don't know. I'm not
yeah,
insisting on that. What I'm insisting on, just to have that, maintain my peace of being first thing, because it's my choice. So no one can have this thing or this power over me to disrupt my peace of being. First thing, I'm choosing it. You cannot, I'm not into any should or nonsense. I'm not going to follow any should, any nonsense from anyone else, any external resource source. So this is something, again, we are establishing that. So it's the concept of receptivity is about your freedom of being, your peace of being, your independence of being, and your empowerment of making choices in life. Once we make a choice, a deliberate choice, then no how profound sharing is, it is going to give us value, even if itself has no value. Okay. But the lesson, the learning, the growing will be the value. That is the whole magic of this receptivity.
Exactly. 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 It's one of those sophisticated strategy where regardless of how things turn out, we get value. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a big deal. All right. So let's open this up here. I want to, on this point, comments there, Ramsey, Elizabeth, sure, Norma, whoever's there. Did Norma come? I did let her know. Oh, she's offline. All right. Oh, that's all right. Show's having trouble. Show's having trouble. Oh, okay. I'm looking. Yeah. Elizabeth says, I'm hearing you about the broad view. I have to think about more about relates to my specific situation I'm trying to make sense of. Going on 8 years of working out. Maybe I never will. Maybe that's openness too. I'm not sure. All right. So on this point, Elizabeth, since this is a big point here, and to go into it, I'm going to read the Sophie and the Philosopher story, right? And this story now, in the context of Nobelia and the new nobility, the Sophie and the Philosopher story is an origin story. Chapter 10, we are going to come to an origin story, right? And there's a couple of them. And this is an origin story for the new nobility. Origin in this, that it is one of the stories that were there at the start of the new nobility. And as it's part of the foundational building, the foundation blocks of the new nobility. And in that sense, an origin story. Yeah. So this is a very big deal. This is a very big deal story here. All right, here we go. Sophie and the Philosopher. Sophie encountered an idea which enveloped her soul. Sophie encountered the idea of a philosopher who would invite her to learn with him. Sophie's dream becomes real. Her intent, her desire manifests, materializes as the philosopher actually comes into her life, really does invite her to learn with him. Wow! Exhilarates Sophie as she jumps on her bed in joy. My dream has happened. It's here in my life for real. Her mom comes to investigate. What's going on? Nothing. I'm just excited, exhales Sophie, struggling to contain herself. Nothing except the dreams can come true. Intents can materialize. Sophie continues jumping for a while because this is beyond imagining the incredibleness of what's transpired. This philosopher she has manifested has asked her to be in connection with him and learn philosophy and share with him her journey. Wow, what a dream come true. And share with him her journey. Wow, what a dream come true. But then, Sophie says, but wait. I am Sophie. Sophie is short for sophisticated. Sophie, sophisticated, same name. I am Sophie. I am sophisticated. I am Sophie the sophisticated. Wait. The philosopher has invited me to learn and partake in learning and growing and knowledge and expansion and awareness and intent and all these magical things. But I know little. I also know I am more. One thing I am not going to do is be influenced by the philosopher. Nope. That's why I'm Sophie the Sophisticated. I will not be influenced. However, I cannot be blind to the moreness the philosopher promises. Now, I am going to be receptive. I am going to take for granted what the philosopher has to share makes sense. Sophie is emphatic, liking and understanding emphasis. I am going to be open to seeing sense beyond what I can see now. I know my imagination is limited. I know my knowledge is limited. I'm going to trust the philosopher makes sense. I'm going to trust without trusting. I'm going to trust it makes sense. But this does not mean I am Sophie the Sophisticated. That just because it does make sense, it does not mean I have to be influenced. No, I do not have to be. I can choose to be. Not only can I choose to, but I have to choose. I have to choose to decide whether or not I wish to take on what I know. So I am never influenced. So that it is always my choice what I absorb, what I make my own. Even if it might be all of it, doesn't matter. Always it needs to be a choice. This is Sophie's sophistication, her profound receptivity. She is never influenced. She always does maintain her independence of being. Yet she changes profoundly at the same time. What a magical story. What a magical story. I want to leave it there for right now. I want to leave it right there. Because this is a magical story. And yes, there's a little bit more to the story. But I want to leave it there on this point of Sophie's sophistication. Because even though Sophie is changed profoundly by everything that comes into contact with the sharing, right, doesn't mean that she's influenced. It's a very sophisticated, nuanced understanding. She chooses to make it her own. Chooses every single time. Every single time chooses. This is a very deep part of receptivity. So this is the difference between receptivity and openness. If I'm open, things come in and impact me, change me, influence me. Yeah, like I'm open to a virus. That's no good. I get a cold. Yeah. I'm influenced when I don't necessarily want to be. But being receptive says, virus, well, okay, most of the time the things that I take in are very benign and they help me digest stuff and all sorts of stuff. But in your case, no, sorry, not going to happen, right? Furthermore, that receptivity also, this particular openness of choosing is how awareness works. Sophie is sophisticated. She understands if she does not choose, if she allows herself to be influenced, she's going to become something that she is not. To be influenced means she's going to become the philosopher in the end if she keeps it up. And that's not her. No matter how awesome that might be for the philosopher, it's not awesome for her because she's not going to be real. So the only way for her to be real and to truly capital L learn and truly grow and truly develop capital A awareness is to choose. If we are influenced, we are not choosing. Yes. And this is, unless of course you now deliberately allow it, and then, well, you aren't really influenced, you're choosing. So influenced is by default saying it's out of my hands. We say no, we don't want it to be out of our hands, even though it's the same thing in the end. Perhaps the same information and value coming into us. That deliberate choice makes all the difference, because over time you become you. What you've chosen is now yours because you've chosen it deliberately. It makes sense to you. You've thought about it. You've figured it out. You've applied all the impeccability, right? And so now when you put it in there, it's no longer the moment Sophie is no longer somebody else's, it's yours. The moment Sophie chooses that, right, and puts it into herself, this is not an idle act. This is as a consequence of much thought and much thinking it through to the end and perspective shifting to multiple perspectives, etc., right? Diligence, thoroughness, scrupulousness, conscientiousness, etc., right? All of Sophie's impeccability goes into that. However, or not however, but as a consequence, when she takes it into herself, when she chooses it and makes it her own, it is hers. It is hers, not the philosopher's, hers. So even though she may be using the same words, doesn't matter. The philosopher's using words that others use too. He didn't invent language, right? So uh, doesn't matter where it comes from. It's irrelevant. The fact is, it's mine now. Yes, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter where the air that I come, where it originated or whatever. When I breathe it in, I make it my own and I get the energy from the oxygen, right? So this is the key. It's to make it your own so that it's real. Yeah, doesn't matter where it comes from. This is totally irrelevant. If you got no ego, you don't care about people taking your stuff and making it your own. This is a BMN narcissist idea. Oh, I need credit and all this. No nonsense. Yeah, if we share in goodness like the new nobility, and this is what they do on a daily basis. They share, and they make it their own. That's why they do repeat packs and takeaways. Make it their own. Application, application, application. Choice, choice, choice. Choice and awareness are synonymous. Choice and awareness are synonymous. Awareness and choice synonymous. Yes. So when we're choosing consciously, deliberately, that's when we grow, enhance, and develop our awareness. Yeah. When we are influenced, not necessarily. We may learn things, we may know things, but we don't necessarily grow our awareness. We may grow our database. We may, load up our hard drive, and that's why we need terabytes of hard drive. But does that change your operating system? No. You just got a big overblown, bloated hard drive, and then you need more and more. And so what? Where does it get you? Nowhere. Doesn't change your operating system. When you choose it and you build it into your operating system, see, that's when you really understand it. Now you're using the information to actually change who you are, and you change your operating system. So this is a big deal. It's a very, very big deal. So we have to be careful with openness, Elizabeth, right? Because openness can lead to being influenced. But we want to have that focus to our openness, which our openness leads to receptivity rather than being influenced. Yeah. We can easily be influenced if we set our intent to be open, which is again in your question, it's clarity. But in our case, it's clarity here, capital C clarity means clarity of intent, not just clarity of vision, clarity of hearing. No, 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 no. Clarity of intent. It is a very particular clarity because intent is a power. It's a force that makes things happen. That is how the philosopher came into Sophie's life, because Sophie had an absolute clarity of intent. Yes, she had read the story about the philosopher coming into a girl's life. Yes, and or a woman's life, and this really grabbed her imagination. And she says, "I intend this in my life," and it happened. Yes. Now, Sophie and the philosopher, it reads like a fictional story, but it's actually a true story. Yeah, it's a true story. So this is influence is similar to attunement? No, 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 not at all. Receptivity is similar to attunement, but no. Attunement is a connectivity, but it's not an influence. Never can it be an influence, because I am choosing, I am making that effort. So when we attune to the current in the river, yes, I have to paddle a little bit, but it's always my choice. That paddling to keep me in attunement with the current, it's my choice to be there. Should I see this current is going to take me down the rapids or a waterfall where I don't want to go, I now unhook from it. Yes. So whereas being influenced by it means I'm caught up in that current and it's too late. I can't get out and I'm being swept along. See the difference between influence and attunement? Attunement is always a choice, but it's a choice to be in harmony, to be in flow and in harmony with, not being forced along by. That's another thing. I mean, if I want to go down the rapids and be a bit out of control for a while, it's still my choice. Yes, okay, I'm going to go down it deliberately. Fine, all right, so be it. But it's still my choice, right? So influence is when choice is removed, and receptivity is when choice is there. Attunement is always about choice, because the point and purpose of attunement is to connect to the greater energy, the greater intent of the universe, or the universe's intent, just intent in itself. And when I connect to that greater intent, and when I'm going along with it by choice, I am able to be more efficient and more effective, and I'm more in harmony with things. Yes. And I'm now not disconnected from the greater sensibility. I mean, if you think of it from a business point of view, if you're not in attunement with the business world and in attunement with people's likes and tastes and fashions and stuff like that, you can make a brilliant product, but if you're out of attunement, it's not really going to go anywhere. It's going to flop, right? You can give it a bad name, and you cannot have the marketing of it be right. It's a great example of this was the Segway. Yeah, the personal thing that you stand on and move like this. The name had completely flopped. I mean, yes, the product sells and it did this, but there was so much marketing that went into this. A huge marketing budget. I mean, that person who did this, they announced it for like, I think 4 years ahead of time, said this big breakthrough in personal transportation coming and blah, blah. And it was this huge deal. It had massive press releases and everything. It had every possible advantage to be a transformative, world-changing product. And it didn't. Why? Because he was out of attunement. Simple things like the name and the way he had you stand. If it made you stand sideways looking cool, he would have sold a zillion of them. But he made you stand looking like a dog, so the thing didn't sell. Simple things. He was out of attunement. Yeah. So this key with attunement means that we are connected to the greater flow of things, but doing so deliberately by choice. Influence is where we're getting swept along by the flow of things, and now we're not in control. We don't get to choose. We don't get to choose. Yeah. And then we don't even know, because you're tumbling around and you've lost all your awareness. You're not in charge. Attunement is being in charge of your connectivity. And influence is when you're not in charge. Does that make sense, Elizabeth? Bina, come back, come back, come back, come back, come back, come back. I want to hear what Bina has to say on this. Yeah. Let me just make a note there. Very powerful, very, very powerful stuff. So yeah, to understand influence and openness and choice and awareness and attunement, they fine distinctions, but the distinctions are very powerful. The distinction between openness and receptivity is huge, huge. Yes, openness can easily lead to being influenced, right? But it can also go the other way. It can lead to being receptive. Yes. So receptivity is an openness, but it has a caveat, it has a filter, it has a tweak to it. Yes, anomalies can influence, prod, move us. Yes, but anomalies have a safeguard. Yes, they can influence you to think, but you have to still choose. Anomalies are, because of their very nature, they aren't like slam dunks where you can just say, oh, it means this, it means that. No, you have to think about it. And when you have to think about it, you have to figure it out. Choice comes into it. So yes, they influence, but in a very peculiar way. Their influence is to get you to think. And that is sort of one of the only ways that influence is okay. When it's getting you, when you're being influenced, choose. To think here, meaning to choose, right? To figure it out. So in that way, it's okay to influence when you're influencing choice, option. Anything else, that's limiting the individual, right? Because if I truly influence you to do something, yes, I may think it's the goodest thing for you in the world, and it's like, wow, this is fantastic, but I don't really know. And I may limit you to that and that only. So we can only really ethically influence choice, option. Yeah. So yeah, anomalies can be pretty strong sometimes, but if you really watch them closely, it's making us like, well, your choices are be totally stupid, idiotic, suffer, complain, moan, have a hard time, or you can choose this. I still have a choice. And amazingly enough, sometimes people choose the the negative choices, right? So yes, sometimes the choice isn't really a choice, but when you look closely, you always have a choice with anomalies. Whereas influence, when you're influenced, your choice is kind of removed. Yeah. So yes, anomalies do, or they can sometimes influence, but it's subtle. It's subtle. There's something, but open that. It's all right, Norma. I messaged you, but you were already offline. So all good. No worries, Norma. No worries. No worries. So this is powerful stuff. This is powerful stuff. Very powerfulness. Openness with filtering. Exactly. One should always put a filter on all that comes his way, or their way, or her way. Exactly. Many times something is discussed, and I say to myself, I don't have to listen to that. Exactly. Exactly. And that's capital R receptivity. But we're going to go even further, Ramsey. We are going to say, I am going to listen with the insistence that it makes sense. Yeah. And therefore, I get to see how it makes sense, even sometimes when it doesn't. All right. So now I'm applying capital R receptivity to when I, for instance, hear somebody engaged in hate speech. Yeah. You say, well, how can hate speech make sense? But when I insist it makes sense, what is my brain doing? My brain is trying to figure out how and in what context it makes sense. What the person who is saying the hate speech and the racism and all the other rubbish, the verbiage doesn't make sense. What makes sense is the fact that this person is feeling inferior and insecure. And because of the superiority paradigm, it's telling them, you cannot feel this way. You have to be special. You have to be superior to somebody. Oh, well, okay. Now their racism makes total sense. They're just trying to do what is the good thing according to the superiority paradigm. So you see, they just lost. They lost in this bubble of ignorance and unawareness. So now their behavior makes sense, even if what they say does not. Because I've insisted on the entirety making sense, the big picture making sense. Yes, I've leapfrogged over, you know, at least with my starting point, I've leapfrogged over listening to just what they say and listening to their motivations, their deeper understanding, their intent to goodness, their confusion, their lostness, their insecurity, all this other stuff, right? So I hear the overall, right? So my receptivity, because I insisted that it makes sense, the whole thing makes sense, not necessarily the words only. But I went past that. So yes, okay, I can say, well, your words inherently are contradictory and they don't make sense, but they do make sense in the context of you looking to bolster your insecurity and you're feeling terrible about yourself and blah and blah, right? So now I end up with compassion, not anger. Yeah. So it's a very profound thing. It's a very profound thing. It's very, 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 very profound. And that way too, when we truly understand, we cannot be bothered by stuff that's nonsensical because we see the bigger picture. In other words, there's a good reason why people are typically nonsensical. It's quite amazing. It's quite amazing. And when we see that deeper makes sense, we also then start to make sense of the universe and the world, because we starting to say, wow, now that I started to look at this, it's all about awareness. It's all about learning. It's all about growth. We have to learn for ourselves. And because we have to learn for ourselves, we have to choose. And because our choices have to be free choices, that means that we have to be able to make bad choices. Has to be a part of the system. If I'm not free to make a bad choice, then I'm not free. Then my awareness means nothing because it's just a program. I'm not truly free to choose. See, it's like robots. They get programmed. You can't make bad choices, so they don't really develop awareness. We don't want to take that risk with robots. But with humans, we see bad choices all the time. And this reminds us that we have that freedom. And so when we do make choices, that we want to develop the responsibility and awareness to make sensible and appropriate choices and not get caught up in bubbles where we think it's the right thing, like the person spewing the hate stuff, right? So it all works together. And when we sort of figure out how the whole universe makes sense, we live in a different world. And this is Nobelia-Living, right? To them, life, the universe, and everything all makes sense. It makes profound sense. Yeah, it's very cool. It's very cool. So yes, our receptivity is a profound filtering mechanism. We are filtering through make sense. And yes, the sub things like our choice, it makes sense that I can make a bad choice. Yeah. So I'm not saying the bad choice makes sense in itself, but the bigger picture makes sense. So make sense becomes this contextual nested understanding, which is transformative. It's transformative. So even nonsense sometimes makes sense, right? All depends on the context. Yeah. So when we do that, boy, does it change our lives. Because now we don't fight life anymore. We understand everything makes sense. Even the nonsense makes sense. It has to be there. It's part of it. Now, of course, it has to be there as an option. Doesn't mean that you have to choose that option. But sometimes we do need to choose that option to figure out and know for a fact that this is something that doesn't work, right? We often learn through the negatives, right? As any good research scientist will tell you that when your research fails, that's sometimes when you learn the most. Yeah. But bad choices, and then you see the consequence, and you say, well, I did this because I was taking the shortcut and I got a short-term gain, but it really bit me in the backside for the long term. Yeah. So this is a profound, profound, profound thing. So it's a very, very, very big deal that arises out of all of this. Yeah. And this is what we're going to really see with the new nobility. They live in a world where they figured this out. Yes. And they're coming from this overview perspective continually, continually. Openness excluding ignorance, and I believe we are all ignorant in some way to some degree or another. Exactly, that's why it always makes sense to us, because I know I'm ignorant, and I start with this understanding that it makes sense, because when I start there, I get to see how, and I live in a benign universe, so things have to make sense. And because I've proven to myself over and over and over how things which don't at first make sense, but when I insisted they did, this is what led me to this deep understanding that the universe is benign, positive. Yeah. Very, very powerful. Very, very, very powerful. Very, very powerful. Huge, 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 huge. All right. I'll have to come back. Let me just respond quickly and tell somebody that I'm doing the live here. When Facebook gets so slow and weird, every time it's because they busy doing a major update. And I think there's a little sort of clue from the universe there. Yeah, that when things aren't quite going right, working right, and right and slow, maybe it's because things are being changed inside. So understand this with yourself, right? That when you are going through major internal updates, yeah, that you need to pay attention, that you may be a bit slower than you usually are, right? You may not be your usual self, yeah, and things may not quite work exactly the way you want them to, because you're busy changing your operating system, you're busy changing your default, you're busy making a major update to yourself. So I was reminded of this, and I've seen this many times. I really pay attention to this with the major platforms, right? I saw it in gaming, and I see it here on Facebook too. I'm on Facebook a lot, obviously, right? Whenever these weird stuff happens, because they're making a major update. Yeah, or inevitably, or I guess maybe sometimes they're just working on fixing stuff like bugs and stuff. They have to go into the deep underlying programming. So it's kind of a big deal. It's a very big deal. Bina lost connection too. Dang it. So and sure too. Wow. It's like the whole universe is all crazy today. So this ignorance is a very key point, and that's our humility as spirit warriors and as aspirants, right? That's why the new nobility always consider themselves perpetual aspirants. because they understand this ignorance is something that is always with us. And because of their acute awareness of their ignorance, this is precisely why attunement is such a profound, profound, profound conception and philosophy and way of living. Because attunement is the mechanism, the way of living, which enables us to surpass our ignorance and our limitations. Right? We can leapfrog. It's the ladder in the snakes and ladder game. Right? So poor choices, lack of impeccability, those are the snakes. Yeah. Because you make a poor choice because you're unimpeccable. Now, sometimes you're impeccable and you think you've fallen down a snake, but then you see, wow, this snake's tail actually ends up taking me to a level higher than where I was before. Right? So you initially go down a snake's hole I call them fortuitous mistakes, but it ends up taking you high. So this is where the magic of impeccability. Yeah, 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 yeah. Wow. So it's, again, all of this, there's so many parts to what we're sharing here. And to really use it in our lives, we need to go over those parts individually and really become wizards at using those parts, right? Know it inside out, upside down, left, any which way you can. Yeah? So that you've got this inside you. And then once you've taken one part and you know it thoroughly and fully, you go to the next. And of course, they're all connected. And after a while, they start connecting together. Yes. And then you get the whole thing. And it all starts to fall into place, right? And we're going to see this with Biella. Biella's made that effort. Her whole life is focused on this. The whole environment, the community she's in, all focused on it. So we're going to see at least where somebody's implementing this and using it. Yeah. Let me just finish my comment here. Very powerful stuff. So, in other words, what I'm trying to say is, if we're looking to understand how this greatness all works together, don't be put off by the fact that we don't understand sometimes. That's how it goes. Today we'll be talking about attunement, and it'll make sense. And then tomorrow, and then the day after or next month, we have to come back and go over it again. Right? Just because you've understood it once doesn't mean you're going to keep on understanding it. Yeah. So we're going to go over the stuff over and over and over again. And you'll see this in Nobelia. This is what they do. They discuss things over and over. Why? Not the same. It's never the same, never ever the same. Because that's how we are. Until it's innate, we always need to more. And even when it's innate, you're always learning more, always learning more. I mean, how long have I not been really focused on impeccability? Multiple decades. Yet I added something to my understanding of impeccability yesterday, or at least to my ability to describe it. Yes. So in the yesterday's life, right? So it's just magic. It's just magic, right? There's always more. In other words, that's where that comes from. There's always more. This is why I believe Ramsey says we should never balance things with a balance of right and wrong. Exactly, because there's always more. Right and wrong is just temporary. Right and wrong is just something that is relative to our understanding now. But this is why, Ramsey, in the deeper philosophy of the new nobility, they don't even use the words right or wrong. When you understand the concept of appropriateness, how can you possibly use these words right and wrong? What is wrong in one context is right in another. What is right in one motivation is wrong in another motivation. It all depends on what you're trying to do, your intent, in other words, motivations or goals, but your intent and the context. Without understanding both your intent or the intent of whoever, without understanding intent and paying attention to context, you cannot possibly determine what is appropriate. Right and wrong, they just say it's always like this, it's always like that. It's absolutism, very narrow thinking, right? Absolutism comes from insecurity. And, when it comes to the superiority paradigm, which is, the philosophy of the superiority paradigm comes from narcissists. Who are the most insecure people ever? Narcissists. So yeah, they want to be definitive, right and wrong, because when I can say definitively, look, I'm right, this is how it is. Look how important I am, in other words. Look how clever I am. Look how sensible. I know the absolute, I'm unquestionable truth. See, I'm the genius of it all. It's just pure narcissism, this whole idea. So it's very powerful. Exactly. Something can be right and wrong at the same time. And when we just leapfrog out of that, which is why the dictionary of power is the dictionary of power. Probably the first entry in the dictionary of power would be appropriateness. It's the one concept. Yes, that's what chapter 1 was all about. Just having that one starting concept from which everything else flows. Yes. If your one concept is superiority, well, then you get the mess that we have in the world around us. But when it's appropriateness, then right and wrong, they just automatically all get resolved. They automatically get taken care of, because you're replacing right and wrong with appropriateness. Yeah. Same with agree and disagree. Yeah. They fall away when we get to capital U, understanding. I don't care two hoots whether or not somebody agrees or disagrees with me. It's totally irrelevant. I'm interested in understanding. Same when I'm looking at what you say. I'm not ever looking to agree with you. I'm looking to understand you. Yes. So yes, I might say, yes, I agree, but it's more, yes, I understand. It's just, habit. Yes. Yeah, right. So again, that's why when I share, I very seldom say I agree. Like when you said, I give my understanding. I'm doing a repeat back, right? So when you say something can be right and wrong at the same time, this is about appropriateness. It's about contextual understanding. See, so I always connect that and look to restate it in my own words, not to agree. Because if I agree, I'm just saying, yeah, and so what? What does agreements actually benefit me? Nothing. Have I learned anything? No. You just told me what I already know. Thank you very much. I already knew it. So you saying you agree doesn't help me anything. But when you restate it in your own words and you demonstrate that you understand what I say, wow, that's very valuable to me. One, I get to see how you think, and this is profoundly valuable. Two, I get some feedback on my communication. That's also very valuable. Yes. And there's other values, but just those two alone make understanding way better than agreement, right? Or disagreement. Now, of the two, sometimes if somebody says, well, I'd rather be proven wrong than right. If you prove me right, I learn nothing. But if you can actually prove me wrong, obviously doing so in a way where the intent is to understanding, yes, you're saying, look, Sil, you said this, but when I think it through, this, I say, yes, I never thought of that. I missed something. Okay, I need to update, and I will. I do this on a regular basis all the time. People don't even notice that. They say to me, oh, but you like never wrong. Nonsense. I just not focused on right and wrong. It's not an issue. I'm always in the process of updating. It's like saying to your computer when it gets an update, flash update needed, and you get all that stuff. What? Computer, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. Idiotic thing to say. The computer's simply updating. The computer wasn't wrong before it worked fine, but now it's getting an update. Okay, it works a little better. See, so when we take this words update, right and wrong out of it, and we focus on understanding, then we get updates. So when you say something and I have to adjust what was before, say, time for an update. Not, I was wrong, and no, I'm just going to update, right? And that's what I do. That's why I'm never wrong, because I just update. It's just foolishness to think of wrong, because it worked. What was wrong with it? It wasn't bad. It worked. Your computer wasn't wrong. It wasn't not working before. When it gets the update, it's just updated. It's just added to moreness. See, in the moreness philosophy, there's no wrong. It's all more. Where I'm at now is the moreness compared to where I was. Where I'm going to be is going to be moreness compared to where I'm at now. Well, does that mean where I'm at now is wrong compared to where I'm going to be? No, it doesn't. Right? I am enough, and I am also more, both together. Yeah, it's a very powerful thing. Very powerful thing. So this is the power of the dictionary of power. It changes our default conceptualities. It changes how we just react by default, because our defaults are not really valuable defaults. Our default, for instance, in thinking right and wrong, agree, disagree, they don't really serve us. From a narcissism superiority point of view, yes, but that's the problem with the paradigm. It's a very, very flawed paradigm. Profoundly, it's a fatalistically flawed paradigm. Yeah. fatally, not fatalistically, sorry. That's a different thing. A fatally flawed paradigm, which means it's going to implode. It has to. It cannot live as it goes on, right? Fatal flaw, right? Like a fatal wound. Yeah, yeah. It'll lead to your death. Same thing, superiority paradigm. It implodes on itself, right? Because it takes so much effort to keep it going. Right? It can only go when there's ignorance and some are benefiting at the expense of others, but the total system, no, doesn't work, doesn't work, doesn't work. So very powerful stuff. Very, very, very powerful stuff. I was hoping that Bina and Sher would come back. But all right, since they aren't, we shall just move on. Elizabeth, please, before I do go on to the story, I am keen to hear more about openness, filtering, and receptivity and influence. Yes. Now, we also have to be careful and, or not careful, but pay attention and to what we said yesterday about understanding terminology, concepts, because you might in your mind mean receptivity when it comes to the word openness. Yeah, many of these abstract conceptions, they don't have fixed definitions and understandings to them, right? So we don't want to limit them because they're open, they're broad, right? They connect to many things, so you can't really define them, but we can seek to understand them and really get into them more. And when we do, then we start to see the differences, right? And then we really get to truly understand them. And then okay, I get it now. I see where the difference between openness and receptivity lies. And then we can adjust our conceptions or whatever the particular conception is. So but be aware though, that when I use a word, it might not mean the same to you, like influence, right? Influence for some is a positive term, right? To be influenced means I'm open, means that I'm progressive, I'm sensible. Yeah. But we have to be careful. We have to be careful how we are influenced. Now, when I'm influenced in a positive way, when you think about it, yes, I've chosen, I make it my own. And they're giving credit to whatever is influencing them because that's part of the superiority paradigm system. So you see, it's part of like this learning, but learning in the superiority system is not really learning in a true sense. It's memorization. It's putting stuff on your hard drive, right? So it's a different type of a system. And when you have that kind of influence, of course, the teachers in that system who want you to do things according to them, and they're going to get credit when you're influenced by them and blah, blah. Brilliant. Cheryl is here. Hello, wonderful Cheryl. Yes, yes. I'm very pleased to be able to call you my friend, and I'm very pleased that you call me your friend. Cheryl, this is a big deal to me. Very big deal. So I'm thrilled you're here, Cheryl. Hello, hello. Good morning to you, Cheryl. Good morning to you. Absolutely. Cheryl, I'm keen to hear your comments on the comments. So Elizabeth Entrusted says, so if I'm trusting the benign nature of what I am attuned to and demonstrating my choice by applying and participating, I just need to be more clear about my intent. Maybe yes, because your intent is going to profoundly determine and influence your attunement. It will not only determine it but also influence it. Yeah? More clear about my intent, maybe yes, only I'm personally not sure I can understand my intent. For me, resonance has led the way. Yes, now resonance is a very marvelous synonym for attunement. Right? So if you're in a band, a literal musical band, yes, any musician understands resonance. Yeah, that resonance is sound vibration that happens in you as a consequence of what is around you. Yes. So if you have resonance and everybody in the band, in the orchestra is a bit out of tune, well, your resonance is not going to be all that cool. Your instrument is going to resonate with the other instruments. But if you were to isolate the sound that's coming from your instrument, it's going to be a bit off key or out of tune or whatever, right? So So when we say, though, I am capital R resonating, again, this resonance is one of the profound terms that really makes a difference, right? So when I have resonance, that means the vibrations that are going on in my instrument, in the orchestra, are positive, beautiful, marvelous, wonderful ones. Yeah. But also I can have little R resonance, and I'm resonating and connecting with the nonsense around me. And this is why we want to change our paradigm. Because when we have a paradigm that is a beautiful, sensible paradigm of moreness and not hierarchy and nonsense and all of this stuff, it is something we can truly resonate with. And when you really start to capital R resonate, your instrument is essentially playing itself. And this is the point of attunement. It is to resonate with the greater overallness of everything, the intent of the universe itself. What is that intent? That intent is awareness, capital A awareness. Yes? More awareness, full awareness, etc., etc. Right? So this is what we are resonating with. We are resonating with the process of facilitating, enhancing, developing, stimulating awareness. Yes, rather than with our own personal, particular intents and motivations, right? Which I doubt if it will be in your case. But for instance, if you looking to, your intent is one of self-aggrandizement, well, you're not going to resonate with the universe much. You're going to resonate with the superiority paradigm, yes. Yeah. So we have to be very, very, very careful about our intents and what we resonate with. For me, attunement is a connectivity on a common plane, revealing an understanding of the rhythm of a thought or place or thing. Yes. And when we take capital A attunement, because we can attune, of course, like in an orchestra, right? Like Cheryl is saying, right? She's connecting this to the rhythm of a thought or a place or a thing, right? The rhythm or the vibration or the moreness of something. So when we attune to the greater moreness, to that deep intent, that's capital A attunement. Yes. Because otherwise I can be attuned to an eddy and think the eddy is the universe, and we have to be careful of that. This is very, very, very key. And yes, I think there are things better left untouched, says Ramsey. Absolutely. Absolutely. So we have to be very careful of what we are choosing to connect to, attune to, resonate with. I think you should have a good intent, but not try to understand them. Huh? I don't understand that, Ramsey. I understand your analogy with a Ferrari, but when it comes to our intents, this, at least from my experience, Ramsey, it is absolutely crucial to know how your intents work. Yeah. Well, because the Ferrari, I can drive it without knowing how it works. However, if this is if part of the Ferrari that I'm buying also says the Ferrari has some programs in it which makes it go where it wants to go, I better know how that works so that I don't get taken by the Ferrari where I don't wish to be taken. And that is more analogous for intent. We can have intents that are sub-intents within our bigger intent. Yes. And those sub-intents can occasionally take us to places that we don't want to go. So understanding all the nuance of our intents is very important. And this is why it's important to have clarity of intent, so that you know exactly and precisely what you want, so that you don't go around intending things unconsciously, unawarely. Yeah. I'll give you an example. Somebody was looking to be in a relationship. And this is a common thing, right? It's actually happened many times, not just with one person, but I'm just going to say. So this individual here, just for purpose of example, right? They want to be in a relationship. They hadn't been in one for a long time. And they hadn't before wanted to be in, but they changed and said, now I want to be in a relationship. I'm ready now, right? And so they met nice people, they met wonderful people, and said, but these are I'm really, and they set an intent down to eye color, hair color, height, type of person, everything, right? And they're persons that they intended came into their lives. But the moment it started to get serious about a relationship, then things started to go wrong. And stuff happened to sabotage the relationship. They could materialize, they could get people coming into their lives that they really wanted to be in the relationship with. But then when the relationship started, it all fell apart. I said, this is an anomaly. This is mysterious. Let's look at the intent involved here a little bit more carefully. Now, luckily, I'd had some experience with this, so it was fairly easy to come to this. So I just asked them, what was the last relationship that you were in? How did that go? Yeah, and how did that end specifically? I said, oh, it was terrible. That was really terrible. It was such a horrible experience. And then they started telling me about the horrible experience. I said, at the end of that, I said, I never, ever want to be in a relationship again. They got so caught up, they didn't realize what they said. And as they said that, I said, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh, 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 oh. And then it clicked. They had set an intent to not be in a relationship again. Currently, they were setting the intent to find the people to be in a relationship, and they did. The people were coming into their lives. But because they had this relationship, this intent not to be in a relationship, it crumbled, right? So it was a very, very clear illustration of the necessity for clarity of intent. Intent is absolutely critical here, right? So we need to be very aware of what it is that we intend. It's very, very important. Yes. Yes. Now, yeah, I understand what you're saying. Okay. Yes. Yes. Correct. So the intent we need to be clear about. We don't have to be clear as to how it's going to materialize exactly. That is beyond our knowing, because in order for our intent to materialize, the entire universe, the entire world has to rearrange itself. And this is beyond our capability of knowing. It's too complex. So yeah, in that sense, absolutely, Ramsey. Yes, yes. For the good, thanks for the clarity. So that makes much more sense there. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, very powerful. So the intent itself needs to be clear. How it works, we don't need to be clear on. This is where we need to trust. Because if you start trying to imagine how it's going to work, you're going to struggle, right? And now you may set sub-intents and limited by your imagination, right? So we do have to have that bigger. Yeah. Correct. And this thing with intent, when we change our intents, yes, and this is very important. We need to understand that sometimes, like in the case of this individual with the relationships, right? They had set an intent, but then things changed and they didn't cancel that intent. They didn't undo it. It was still an open intent. So if we are going to have intents, especially when you have clarity of intent, you know exactly what you're intending, and because it's really clear, you're holding on to that intent until it materializes, or until you say things have changed, I no longer wish this. Yeah. And so it's very important to have that clarity of intent, because clarity of intent isn't just a starting point, it's maintaining it as well, holding that clarity, because that holding that clarity is like keeping pushing that car, right? If you stop, then it dies again and you have to start all over again. So clarity of intent is also about maintaining the momentum of the energy investiture into intent, because it's not only your actions. An intent is my actions, and I am involving the universe in my intent. It's a dual thing, right? It's a collaboration between you and the universe and others. Yeah. So it's very, very powerful. So yeah, we have to absolutely pay attention to this. Yeah. Correct. And not only drive in circles, but you start to drive down a road, and then your intent closes it's a dead end, but it closes the way back. And now you get stranded and stuck, and all sorts of things happen to you. So yes, paying real deep attention to our intents. And Elizabeth, in what you were saying, I very much suspect that likely what is happening to you in this 8-year-long thing that you mentioned is that somewhere there is an intent that is ongoing, that was a very powerful intent that you're not aware of, that's still active and alive. So I would really go back to the time before it started. And ask yourself, what is it that was important to you then? What mattered to you then? What did you want then? What did you seek then? What did you desire then? Yeah. Now, then, desire then with the you of then, not the you of now. You have to really think like you were thinking back then. And you say, oh my goodness, I wanted all this nonsense. Yeah. I wanted all this nonsense. Sometimes we can generate intents without even realizing it, right? Now, this is very important to understand. When we say clarity of intent, it automatically implies that intent is deliberate, right? But we have to be aware. That's why we want clarity, so that it's also a deliberate intent, because we can have inadvertent intents. Yes, we can have inadvertent intents. Yeah. I mean, like my friend had said it out loud. I never want to be in a relationship ever again. They didn't set it as an intent. They were just saying their passion. But because they were so honest at the time, it was an intent. Yeah. But if you asked him, did you set an intent at the end? No, I didn't do anything with intents. I just didn't want to be, see, they wouldn't make that connection necessarily. So we have to pay attention. That's why clarity of intent is so key, so that we develop this habit of not making up inadvertent intents, which cause trouble in our lives. It's very, very powerful. It's very, very, very powerful. It's very, very powerful. Yes, 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 Elizabeth. Yes, yes. You learned not to what, Ramsey? Not to change all the time? I just want to be clear that I understand you. I try not to ever assume. You know, it could mean multiple things in the context here, right? I mean, you could be referring to, yeah, change my intents. Yeah, yeah. But we do need to update our intents also. Because sometimes we set multiple intents. Some of them materialize and happen. And because of that, our entire life path changes. So some of the intents are no longer relevant, necessary, needed, wanted. So it's very important to not only pay attention to when our intents materialize, but then to also say, have things changed? Are the intents that I have, are they still ongoing? Are they still valid? Are they still desired? No? It's very important. And, you know, sometimes too, if we get stuck, Elizabeth, we might have conflicting intent where one is completely contradictory to the other. Yeah. And they're starting to cancel each other out, and you end up in stasis, or the situation just repeats. Yeah. So paying attention to our intents is a very powerful thing. It's a very powerful thing. If there was something that I would have liked to have known right at the very beginning, appropriateness, yes, I had the one word appropriateness, but I didn't really know about intent until later. So yeah, yeah. See, so that's the part of clarity of intent, right? When you have clarity of intent, there's no such possibility of conflict. You know what you want. Now, when we say clarity of intent here, knowing what you want, if we use intent for material things, that causes lots of trouble, because there's consequence to our intent. Like if I set my intent to get that Ferrari, I'm also going to get a wonderfully large, huge insurance bill. Yes. Unintended consequences, in other words. So we have to be very careful with our intents. So there are many others too that come with owning a Ferrari, right? You know, you might suddenly be a target for crime, because, wow, if you can afford a Ferrari, you must have money. And, you know, people come and beg stuff from you and want favors from you, and you get people making friends with you who don't really want to be friends with you. Yeah, they're just after your money. See, consequence. So unintended consequence, this is very powerful. And so when it comes to intent, there are very, very often unintended consequences. This is one of the things that I really, really, was profound in gaming. And same thing right now with Facebook. Things aren't working right. It's unintended consequences of the changes that they're making. And you could say those changes to the deeper programming, and those are intense. So things have unintended consequences. Like in gaming, you get the updates, right? This is a part of gaming. They come regularly, updates, right? There's always unintended consequences. It's become a thing in gaming, yes. And they will even put out in the notes, the update notes, they'll say, look, you can't profit from an unintended consequence in some games, right? Which some have. So this is a very, very powerful thing to pay attention to unintended consequences, which is why clarity of intent is the starting point. It's so key. Elizabeth said, to go back up here, a conflict, my middle name, yes, to pay attention to this. Agenda of living can be changed by something outside of our knowledge. Elizabeth, please read that out loud for me. I know I can't hear you, but I'm just listening. What Norma said. Agenda of living can be changed by something outside of our knowledge. This is when we are in attunement. Then that outside is a positive, profound, magical, awesome force. What Norma said can also apply in a not so positive way. Yeah. That our agenda of living, which is our living intent, our overview intent, our grand intent, as it were, can be changed by something outside, and that's anomalies. Yes. So many ways to read Norma's comment there. It's a very layered comment that can be taken in the smaller context, in a narrower, and also in a negative way, also in a positive way. So because this is possible, we want to ensure, make every possible effort that it is coming in the most benign, beneficial way, that we are aware of how this works, and that we can therefore make choices to make sure that our agenda of living is changed by something that is changed in a way that we want, and by something that makes sense, right? Or at least changed in the way we want. The thing itself doesn't have to make sense, I guess. Intent is an agenda for me, precisely. Intent is taking agenda to the maximum. Yes, agenda is usually on a smaller context, and usually pretty petty and trivial, or at least, not always necessarily petty and trivial, but definitely smaller context. Whereas intent is typically, this applies to your overall life, however big that may be, can even apply beyond multiple. Right? So intent is very powerful. So yes, intent is an agenda. Intent is a capital A agenda, precisely. Right? That distinction, it's going further. It's taking it to the ultimate. Indeed, I keep working to reach my intent, but do not change the same intent. If an intent is not valid, I put other intents, but the big direction would be in a single forward direction. There you go. So this is, for me, I find that if I have an intent to goodness, an intent to moreness, I don't say how. That's enough for me. That's it. That's where my intent goes. I simply set that intent to moreness, the intent to awareness, intent to goodness. How it comes about, my imagination is too limited. So because I have these deep power view, overview intents, I don't get caught up in the side eddies and things going peculiar. It all just takes me along, and it's all good. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Oh, absolutely a joy and a pleasure, Elizabeth. I want to make a comment on Elizabeth here for everybody. Right? Intents can die, I believe, but never bend again. If they die, I bury them. Yes, we can cancel an intent, absolutely. So because we can have a superseding intent that says, okay, cancel those. So I want to make a comment about Elizabeth here. And so for all of you that are listening to this and see this and hear this, yeah, pay attention and who've been here regularly. If you pay attention to Elizabeth's comments, right, that Elizabeth makes, is it not clear when we apply capital H hearing to those comments? Is it not clear that Elizabeth, in between the lives, and not just now, is but she's thinking about what she's saying now, but also that she's been deeply thinking about what she is sharing with us. Yeah. So we can hear Elizabeth's deep thinking, figuring it out, working it out, going over it, stretching it, bending it, twisting it, looking inside, upside down, through, beyond, more. Yeah? I can hear this in your comments, Elizabeth. I can hear your immersion into the deep understanding, the intent to understand. And also I can hear the effort to understand through thinking about things, right? When you're not here on the lives, right? In between, in your life in general. It's clear in your comments, right? Now, I'm stating this as a very definitive thing. So I invite you, please, to confirm this, because I would be exceedingly surprised if this is not so. Yeah, of course, there's always the chance, but I really do hear you, Elizabeth. I hear you processing, thinking, practicing, applying, stretching, twisting, bending. Yeah. Exactly, but not only Frank, Ramsey, she's actually making the effort to really think more about the things that she is commenting on. They're not just popping up in the moment. They are coming as a consequence of deep consideration, of deeper processing, right? It's coming more. And I can see that layeredness of the understanding. That's what I'm saying, right? So that, all right, now we are talking about something that she's still struggling with, but other comments, those other comments were comments of where she's already come to resolution being this compound term with the capitals and the hyphens. Yeah, because she's figured it out. She went all the way to the end. She got it. She understood it. She's made it her own. Yes. Now she's sharing, applying, living, and in the process of self-proof. This is a very profound part of Way of Impeccability. It's a deep mechanism that absolutely is necessary. But first, we have to do that work of thinking it through to the end, going down all the detours, going down all the paths. Yes, she is a deeply conscious person. Right. And Elizabeth's sincerity and her earnestness to know, to learn, to be more, to grow. This is very obvious, right? Now it's obvious in you too. It's obvious in Norma also, right? But I'm commenting on the fact that Elizabeth is specifically also making the effort that the things that come up in the lives, and that have come up for her before, and from when Elizabeth did Way of Impeccability, that these are things that she is still continuing to work on, and she's not just giving it a cursory attention, right? That she's actually making a deep effort to really work it out for herself until it makes sense. Because now the thing that was recently come up, this is something that hasn't gotten to that point of making sense yet. It's ongoing. But what I'm hearing from Elizabeth is that effort in the rest of her day, right? Every day, the rest of her life, that she's thinking about these things. It's not just here in the life. Yeah. And that is very important. If we want real change, if we want to really come to true capital U understanding and apply that deep discernment and have it come to enhance our awareness and have it be where we can use it and apply it and make an actual real difference in our lives, we need to have this as an ongoing process that we are immersed in. Yeah, we can't just touch and go. Then you're gonna touch it. Yes, you're gonna understand it. You're gonna have the realization. But tomorrow, what did you understand yesterday? What was your epiphany yesterday? I don't know. But Elizabeth could tell you, because she said, "Oh, it wasn't that I had an epiphany yesterday, but I became aware that this is something I need to figure out. It makes sense, but I don't quite own it." And she keeps thinking about it until she owns it, until it's hers. And that's why sometimes when she makes those profound comments, she's stating it from a point of knowing, because she's gone all the way to the very end, as Biella says. Yeah, it's a big deal. Elizabeth, is this so? I'm keen to hear from you. I really feel strongly about my comments here, and I'm keen to hear if this. I always like to get feedback. I don't like to speculate. I don't like to assume. Even though I feel strongly, I still like to check. Yes, I still like to check always. Just a good habit to be in to check this, because then you actually build up a database. If you keep checking and it comes back, nope, 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 well, then you need to reassess. Yeah. If it comes back on a regular basis, yes, yes, okay, then I can start to trust these assumptions, right? Because they are assumptions. They're more like probability assessments. It's a high probability, so it's not quite an assumption, but I can trust them. I'm raising the degree of probability every time, right? And I can get more fine-tuned, more accurate. And this does allow me to really interact with life in a more fluid and more efficient way. So I don't mean to embarrass you or anything, Elizabeth. I mean, I hope you take my compliments in the best positive way here. I wasn't really trying to be complimentary. I was really just sharing for the point of making the point that when we come upon things that touch us deeply, when we encounter profoundness, if we don't then take this into ourselves and process it and work it through and think it through and have it be a part of our lives until we come to resolution, until we have that capital R resolution, the things are going to go in one ear and out the other ear. Right now, as you see, some things there's resolution for Elizabeth, other things there isn't, and she's still it's an ongoing struggle, right? And she comes back to the stuff, right? And it gets updated. Okay, I enhanced my understanding of what these concepts mean, this understanding, this practice, this living, this application, but I need more, right? She doesn't give up until it is fully resolved. Yes, Elizabeth, are you still here? Where are you? I want to hear from you, Elizabeth. I want to hear from you. Now, maybe Elizabeth can't type right now, so it is possible. Maybe the boss has come around and she had to hit escape real quickly there, or Alt F4. Yes. Escape, it's still there, the thing that was open, but Alt F4, it closes the current window. Was a deep joke in gaming always. When newbies would come on and they say, "Ah, man, I don't know how to do this. How do you do this? And how do you do that?" And they want to know stuff. And say, "Oh, yeah, just hit F4. Sorry, Alt. Just hit Alt F4, and your problems will be solved." Of course, it closes the game, the program. It's a bit mean, but it's like, you need to go and figure it out for yourself. Don't just look for easy answers. And of course, they thought the Alt F4, the easy answer, would do it. And so it's a good lesson to learn, right? It's a good lesson to learn. Also, it's good to know the keyboard shortcuts. Save you a lot of time. Very useful. Much quicker to hit Alt F4, close the program, than to move your cursor and find a little X and all that, right? So very powerful stuff. Very powerful stuff. Many like that, many shortcuts like that. And time saving efficiencies. So Elizabeth, I'm keen to hear. I'm hanging in there until you share. I'm being very patient. Yeah. I'm just trusting that Elizabeth can't right now. But this is an important point, right? This application. Application doesn't just mean the doing as a consequence. It also applies to the application of unraveling things, the application of understanding things, the application of discernment. We have to think it through, and not just through in one path. We have to think it through sideways, backwards, upside down. Understand? And this idea that we understand and know, this is a very, 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 very dangerous idea. One we must always take with great, great caution. And no matter how much we may think we know, we have to understand that likely we do not yet fully know. Right? So we will behave, apply, live as if this is something that's very real and valid and true and good. But we are always going to keep in mind it's only as good as it lasts. And it's a bit of a peculiar phrasing, but it's peculiar specifically because it can stick in our memory. What do you mean it's only as good as it lasts? Well, it stops lasting, it stops working when it's no longer good. So when my concept, my truth that I believed is a truth, when I discover, well, it's not quite so true anymore, or something else has come along, well, now its lasting has ended, and I replace it. Yes. So likewise, your programs on your computer, they're only as good as they last. When you get a new one, okay, thank you very much. Sorry, old software, bye, off you go. Yeah. So look at Zoom. Zoom is really great now. But what did Zoom replace? What did we use before Zoom, right? Whatever that was, it was only as good as it lasted until Zoom came along. Or, Zoom was the first really major video conferencing software that really worked well. There were others, but they didn't really work as well. And so Zoom became the default. Now, of course, everybody does it. And Zoom still has its benefits, but there are many similar things that will do the same. Elizabeth, where'd you go? I'm keen to hear from you, Elizabeth. Very keen, very keen. Magical stuff. So this learning point, my point about learning is that if we just think we understand, because we understand intellectually, this is a big trap. We have to be super careful of this. If you really capital you understand, it means that it's in your life, you are living it, you are applying it. Yeah. So being able to explain something back, knowing it intellectually, that's just step one. It's the smallest step of all the steps. Yeah. You really, really know it. You're using it, you're applying it, and then you're also able to explain it back, right? You can share it, you can communicate it. This is when we really know something. Yeah. But it's the application that counts. Doesn't matter if you can't explain it. It's helpful for your own understanding. It helps you apply it better. So it's a powerful tool. But the living of it is the key. And we only get to that when we get a bit obsessed with these points. Right? When we don't understand something, we connect to something that's profound and we say, what? And I really figure it out for myself, right? Go through it from multiple perspectives, thinking it through to the end, which means going down all the detours, the sidetracks, the loops, right? You keep going, you keep going, you keep going. Yes. Yeah. It's very, very, very important. Very, very powerful. Very, very powerful. Norma, anything to add here? Ramsey, anything to add here? We never got to reading our story today, but that's how it goes, right? It's all connected. It's all connected. I mean, this is what we are seeing on Nobelia. All of their interactions and conversations are precisely about understanding to this point of application and this point of really knowing it in your body, in your physicality. We're going to see Biella go through this process with the others, this discussion process. It's a very powerful thing, yeah. And we're going to hear mainly Biella's internal processing, because this is a default for her that she does that internalness. I think Elizabeth may have had to leave. But yeah, Ramsey, Norma, anybody else who's here? Anything else to add? By the way, I want to put out just a peculiar curiosity. Matt came and joined. Matt, if you're here still, I want to hear from you. Maybe you came and went already. But unless I missed some comments from Matt, I didn't see Matt say hi. I am keen, Matt, on this point of learning, deep, true, real capital and learning how it works. Rams is still here. And Cheryl's still here. Cheryl, I forgot all about you. Oh, sorry, Cheryl. Sorry. Oh, my bad. You need to make comment more, Cheryl. You know about this processing, thinking it through. When Cheryl does repeat backs and takeaways, boy, she really thinks about them, explores them inside, out, forward, and backward. It's very powerful. Are you here this time every night? Yes, I am, Norma. Yes, I am. In the weeknights. The only day I'm not doing a live is Saturday. And then Sunday, it's 2 hours earlier. So we're nearly coming to the end of the 2 hours here, right? So on weekdays, 2 hours earlier than now is when we do the lives. And on Sundays, 4 hours earlier. So Cheryl, anything to share? Any thoughts before we go? I love that you're here, Cheryl. I miss you. You got to come more on Zoom, Cheryl. I know I tell you this all the time, and I know you know it, but I'll keep telling you until I hear more from you, because I do miss you. I wish Elizabeth would come more on Zoom too, which is my only issue with the live sessions. The time, is that what you're saying, Cheryl? I know, whichever time I choose, it's not going to work. I mean, first of all, I'm somewhat limited in that, Bina's mostly on Zoom with me. And so Bina, obviously, because of her time zone there, she's 12 hours away. So it's 12 o'clock midnight for her. So afternoons, therefore, don't become an option, or evenings. Yeah. So I only have mornings. And then within the mornings, if I get it too late, so, it's just works it. So I need to roll it around for a while. Exactly. And that sentence really is, I need. This is just not a casual thing. Say, oh, I need, no, need. You really mean that need. It's a physical thing that you have to do it, right? It's a true need. Now, if you don't roll it around, it's just nonsense. Yeah, yeah. No, Matt is on UK time too, and there are other people that come sometimes that are. Ramsey is on Lebanese time. So Ramsey's like in between you and Norma, right? So you are like Bina is 12 hours, and you either 7 or 8 hours difference, Norma, depending on whether it's summer or winter. So Ramsey likely was going to be about 10 hours difference to me. To me, that is, yeah. So like Bina is UTC +5. So what are you, Ramsey? UTC UK +2. Ah, okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So that's right. So you'll be about 9 hours difference, right? Right, Ramsey? So it's like 9 o'clock at night for you now, or coming up to 9 o'clock at night. Yeah. Yeah. All right, cool. That's good to know. So you use 9 hours difference, which is the same as South Africa time. Or see why I'm glad I hung in there and I was patient. I was patient. So good to know. Good to know. Good to know, Ramsey. Good to know. I know people in South Africa, of course, and one of them has been trying to come, but they haven't been able to. And so they also 9 hours difference. See, we waited and we waited and we waited, and look at what's coming. Look at what's coming. All the reward for patience. All right. What have you been thinking about while you were away, Bina?
Oh, I was busy. I had to go, and I don't want to disturb you because you were talking. So that's why I have to leave you
Oh, no
immediately. So
problem.
sorry for that.
I
But I
always
was, of course, I
assume,
was thinking
I
about.
have to assume based on what I said that there's a good reason for it, correct?
So I was just thinking about the receptivity and the magic of it.
Yeah.
This whole thing, I think that we can call it that uh, the, the law of receptivity instead of law of attraction.
Much
Is
better law. Yeah. Law of attraction
yes,
is very deeply flawed the way it's communicated.
yes, because I have materialized many intents in my life, and I'm continuously doing this. I'm not saying that I'm just, oh, it is something out of thin air. I'm just creating something. For me,
No.
the whole universe has been created in its totality, and human imagination is as limited as the whole universe or multiverse can be. We can imagine only
Yes.
what is possible in any shape, form, or reality. So it can be different dimension of reality. They exist, but everything is possible. Whatever we can imagine, even the most impossible
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
things,
Yeah.
most
Yeah.
weird and bizarre things, they all are possible. All it's that, okay, we might not have resources, or we might
Mm,
not have the receptivity to perceive that.
mm.
So this is whole the philosophy behind this. And I was just thinking about, like, just do it again. Like, why not do it something deliberately, materialize again in our life.
Mm.
But what I have observed, for me at least, that it's a very fragile, delicate kind of a process. Slightest resistance, slightest friction, which is like, okay, oh yes, okay, this is not right. It disrupts the whole focus, and
Yeah.
focus is the reality. So
Yeah.
yes, so we need to have that everything in just fun and chill way, and then of course you can do this. At least this is for me.
Right. Right. So let's look at this from a different angle, since we were talking
Mhm.
about intents. Yes.
Yes,
So
yes,
so so Bina got an idea into her head once upon a time. And
yes,
when that idea came into her head, she then set it as an intent. Yes.
yes,
Right. Now follow me along here. I'm going to use it kind of as a story here, right? Just
yes.
making it personal with Bina. I have to say cheerio for now. All right. Bye bye, Norma. Bye bye. Go with Morn. Go with Morn's beautiful Norma. Go with Norm. Go with Normaness beautifulness. Yes, that too. All right. Oh, see you later. All right. So as I was saying, sorry, I don't want to lose my thread here. So you an idea came into your head, and this idea really grabbed you. Then you set it
Yes.
as an intent. Yes. Because you said this is not just a good idea, this is an important idea, this is a wonderful idea, this is an idea that I want, this idea I'm excited about, the idea I'm passionate about. A lot of energy went into that idea, correct? Then what happened?
Just one thing, just to make it more clear, that I didn't set as an intent before, because I was not really aware of the whole details of it.
Right. Well, I understand, but
So
I'm
what
using
I
this
what
as
I
an
did
abstract
was
story.
that, okay,
Uh,
yes,
Oh, okay.
okay,
It does.
digress.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm using an abstract story to illustrate. Now,
Okay.
you may not have set it at the time in your personal case, the story I'm referring to, as a conscious, clear intent, but it was nonetheless put out as an intent without you necessarily consciously, clearly saying, I'm setting an intent, right? The
Yes,
end result
yes,
was still the same. You still put out an intent, even though you didn't set it. Yes, you put it out still.
yes,
Right, you still had the intent.
yes,
It translated into intent. But let's just assume that you did set this. Why? Right, or at least doesn't really matter whether it was consciously, clearly done or not, inadvertently done. Either way, the end result is the same. What I'm trying to say is, so idea became intent. The moment that intent put out, what happened to your receptivity in a different context? Right? In terms of the receptivity of you now noticing things that are connected to your intent. That type of receptivity was massively
yes,
enhanced, right? So you were going
yes,
la la la, you were happily going around doing your Facebooking like you every day did, but suddenly you noticed something that you might not have noticed had you not set
yes,
that intent. So what I'm saying is that when we set an intent, our receptivity is enhanced and it connects us to the things that will help us to realize and bring our intent into
oh
furtherance.
yes, oh yes,
So
absolutely,
then,
absolutely.
right, but then though, the thing didn't just happen of its own accord.
Of
You had
course,
to take a chance, like Biella took a chance. You commented, you said something, you said, yeah, you raised your hand.
yes,
You said me. But that was a big
yes,
chance that you took. That was stepping outside of a bit of your comfort zone, right?
not
Because
a
the
bit,
thing,
a lot of my comfort zone.
right. And also your behavior was a bit irrational, was it not?
Kind of, yes.
Well, because the thing that you took a chance on, it was an invitation to join the program, and you said, yeah, I'd like to join, but I can't afford it. But you said anyway, I'd like to join.
Yes.
You could have said, well, it's
Eh,
pointless because I can't afford it. So you said it anyway because your intent was so strong. And look what happened. Uh, the money thing didn't become an issue, right? So my
yes,
point that I'm making is that when it comes to receptivity, it's not only this receptivity of choice and processing, it's also noticing. Yes. So when we have that receptivity to say it makes sense, we notice how it makes sense. When we are set an intent, it enhances our receptivity to see things that will help us implement and further our intent. But that means that we have to be paying attention, yes? Because if we're more receptive and we're not paying attention, the things will come at us, but we won't notice them. So this is very important. Yeah. So this receptivity when it comes to noticing and then acting, of course, we have to. If we have a strong intent, we have to act, even if we can't see how it could be so. We have to act anyway.
Exactly. This
We
is
have to
something
act anyway.
you
Yeah.
have to get rid of your ego and that okay, oh, I know that it is not going to happen. I know that it
Yeah.
is irrational.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I know
Yeah.
and I don't know. We get really
Yeah.
trapped into
Yeah.
these two
Yeah.
polarities that I know and I
Yeah.
don't. I know and I don't know. And this mostly comes from the ego side because it's not it's going against attunement.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
sit that now to prompt on that. No matter the
Yeah.
result could be okay. Yes, I
Yeah.
might get no as many times as it can be, which is, of course, it was not committed that, okay, oh, it's the first time you're going to say, oh, me here, and people will receive. No, not necessarily. So for me, it is like, okay, even no matter how much time it take, you have to just prompt to that and make yourself present and obvious that, okay, yes, you are here and you are open and you are receptive towards this kind of thing.
Exactly. You
So
have
this
to
thing is
make yourself
something.
present and obvious. Sorry, I want to just repeat that.
Yeah. Yes, please.
You have to make yourself present and obvious. Very powerful.
Exactly.
Very powerful.
Exactly. We
Will
need.
you read when you
It
finished? Will
was
you read Cheryl's comment, please?
okay when you
Go
said
ahead.
that okay, it was a bit of your out of your comfort zone. No, actually, it was a big, huge step to
Yeah,
say that because I
yeah,
had no
yeah,
idea what philosophy
yeah.
is.
It was
I was a
massively out of your.
I was a
Well,
systematic.
I mean, the making the comment was out of your comfort zone. That specific comment.
Everything was
Yeah,
like completely. If you look at it like
yeah.
from the outside, it will be
Yes.
like, what's the point? What are
In
you
other
doing?
words,
Because you don't know
Bina,
exactly
you
what it's about.
right
The
at that
trust.
time, Bina paradigm shifted.
Yes.
Yes. What does Cheryl say there, please,
Okay,
Bina?
yes, Veena, the idea that came into your head was not an accident. No, it was a message meant for you. Absolutely, absolutely. And we all get these things. All we need. We sometimes we forget what
Yeah,
we are really
yeah,
hoping for, setting an intent. But universe never forgets that. But because when we forget that, we miss a lot of signs, a lot of other things which are coming into our way.
yeah,
So this is something now when I'm looking back, so many like okay, 5 years before, I can see so many intents materialize even when I forgot about that, but universe actually delivered it.
yeah, yeah. But you acted on that message just for you.
And the things I missed would be, I assume that would be because of my own things. Yes.
Say that again. You broke up. Say again, please.
I was just saying that the chances I missed or my intent didn't materialize. It is just I was not really keen to look for the opportunities. I was reluctant. My ego was inhibiting me that okay, oh, you cannot do this. It's too much and all that. Uh, Things can be too much, but if our intent is clear and we have focus of purpose, things materialize in a most magical way. Most magical way.
Yeah, yeah. It's a
When
profound
you need
thing.
to grab that opportunity with all your teeth and claws and everything, like, yeah, yes, I'm not
Yeah,
going to leave it.
yeah, yeah.
Be an
It's very
opportunist.
profound.
Be an opportunist.
Yeah.
And change the
An
whole your
opportunist, an
understanding of being an
opportunist. Yes.
opportunist.
Yes, to be an opportunist is most important when it comes to our intents, because that's the thing. See, we set
Thank
an
you for
intent,
correcting me.
but
Yes,
but
opportunist.
right, but we have to be careful of thinking that the intent is, oh, I'm setting an intent and I'm going to get something, like I'm putting in an order with Amazon. No, that's not how it works. An intent will bring you opportunities to get to your intent, and you have to seize those
Yes,
opportunities. Be an opportunist.
yes,
Yeah. I mean,
yes,
sometimes it may
yes.
happen that you
And
can
and,
get
and
the things directly, but
yes, and then it is also not promised that things are going to be that whole journey is going to be. Universe will test you because it's a big thing according to you, and you set that intent, and universe so provide you that opportunity. You prompt to that, but now how consistent you are. You need to show your persistence. You need to show your clarity of intent and focus of purpose and everything. You need to prove it every single time.
exactly, 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 exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Every commitment is a relationship, which needs a lot of and continuous work and receptivity and much more.
Yeah.
Every commitment.
Yeah. Exactly. So we have to follow up on this. So intent is a very profound thing. It is really, it's our entire life is connected to intent. So the understanding of intent, it changes absolutely everything. It is a profound mechanism. It's really to really be absolute wizards at intent. Yes, Bina?
Exactly. Yes. Yes. And
We're wizards.
this is something I have learned after doing Way of Impeccability, that how powerful the intent mechanism is. Even
Exactly.
though it was in Islam and Quran, and I was reading that deeds depends on your intent, and I
Yeah,
just took it for granted, like, ah, yeah, okay, so because I didn't pay much attention.
exactly.
But when I was doing Way of Impeccability, it came back into the forefront of my consciousness again. I was like, wow, now
Exactly.
so see the magic and the power of intent.
Yes.
So that was so brilliant, so brilliant.
And it's why it's way of impeccability, not way of intent. Yes, intent is what formulates our lives. It shapes it. It interacts with it. Everything is connected to intent. But without impeccability, we don't know how to use intent. What is impeccability? It's core understanding of impeccability, best use of energy. Intent is a very direct usage of energy. This is what makes intent intent as opposed to just a decision, because we're
Yes.
investing energy when we set an intent, or when, even if it's inadvertent, we are investing energy into that intent. So impeccability says, if you're going to be putting out energy there, you better be clear about what you're doing and be understand how intent works, so that you can use your energy that you are intending with to the best effect. Yes. Best use of energy is best use of intent. It's one and the same thing. Intent is a profound energy usage mechanism. Yeah. So this is why they are so linked. But impeccability says that I'm going to be cautious with my energy. I'm going to be careful. I'm going to be thorough. I'm going to be disciplined with my energy. I'm going to be scrupulous with my energy. I'm going to be conscientious with my energy. I'm not going to go around intending stuff willy-nilly. Yes. Blindly intending. Yeah.
Yes.
It's very important. Very
By
important
the
to,
way,
but
miss you,
to,
Cheryl. Miss you.
yes, yes. Did you hear that, Cheryl? Did you hear that? I am here today, says Cheryl, quite deliberately. Good, Cheryl. Good, good, good. We need more of this, Cheryl. We need more of this. Yes. And I'm keen for you to read the story too. So you can go look in the guides tab, and you can get the links for the stories, and they'll be on the key ones. I was starting to put them on the go over as well, but um, actually I can send them to you if you want, Cheryl. I have that email handy. So brilliant, 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 brilliant. All right. On that note, I am very hungry. Anything anybody has to add? I never heard from Elizabeth again. I was saying really magical things about Elizabeth. I was saying, Bina, that I can hear, capital H, hear in Elizabeth's comments how she is thinking deeply about things, thinking them through to the end, having multiple perspectives on them, really, really maintaining that, thinking it through until she comes to a resolution, right? In other words, she's not just, comments aren't just in the moment a response of what I'm thinking now. I can hear that she's been processing and thinking this, yes? For you too?
Yes. Yes. So
Oh,
profound and very. It's not like just a comment. It's like, okay, she's thinking, and she's keen to
exactly.
discuss more.
Right,
So Elizabeth,
right.
if you are listening to this, whenever you have time, please do come. We really want more from you.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, not just on the live, but come anytime on on
Yes,
on
exactly,
Zoom.
exactly.
Yes,
And same with Cheryl too.
yes. And
Same
Norma
with
and Ramsey and
Ramsey
everybody.
and Norma and amazing. More that in your comments
Yeah,
and
yeah,
by your just be present there. This is something something so huge,
Yeah.
because it proves that you have that moreness and you like that, and it's not overwhelming for you. It's like, yeah, this is what it is. So it's like coming back home. Otherwise people cannot stay. They just say, oh yeah, it's overwhelming, it's too much, it's heavy, it hurts. When a person is coming regularly, it shows that they do have that moreness, and it's not overwhelming from them because they know that it is really. So that's really cool. It's so fun to have you guys here. It's so really it's a privilege. I really enjoyed that.
Yes. Yes. A privilege and a delight.
So thank you so much, Ramzi. Thank
Yeah.
you, Mama. And thank you so much, Elizabeth. And so much, everyone who's been watching, listening,
Yes.
or even not.
Yes.
So please have a
Yes.
good day,
Well,
a
we'll
day
catch you
ahead.
tomorrow.
Okay.
We'll catch
Yes.
you tomorrow. Bina, hold on 1 second there. I'm going to see,
Mhm.
yes, I'm going to end the live stream and end the recording, but keep Zoom. I want to practice this. So all right, bye-bye, everybody.
Okay.
I'm stopping live stream
Bye
now.
for now.
And